within the city of Ely pursuant to NRS 365.550.
We're required to do this annually and turn it into the state for their records. So, I met with Mike, well, I guess Mike and Mike on our roads, make sure nothing new was added to us. And so everything, you have, I think, maps in there that shows the roads that we were reporting to them. And at the end of the day, what we're reporting to the state is 51.37 motor fuel tax centerline miles, and 35.61 of those miles are paved miles.
Can you tell me what you had before, because we gained some this time, didn't we?
No, this was actually the same as it was last year.
Is it?
It is.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so questions from or thoughts from anybody are welcome. Either on Zoom or in the room here.
Mr. Mayor, when we did this so-called certification, did we also take into account the access off of Great Basin and Campton, or some of the other streets that I have concern with? We got road construction coming on. We have city standards that aren't being met. That needs to be addressed. I don't know if it's within the means of this particular item, but if not, I'll bring it up again. I brought this particular issue up for years. We need to address it.
BJ, it does look like that on the map here. You label Avenue D as gravel road down to Alton there. Is that? Does that need to be corrected, or is the map exact, or is it just a real depiction for something else you calculated here?
This map is a pictorial presentation of the roads that we come back in here and did, but no, that is a good point, because Mike and them did come back and make some improvements over here behind. This is down by Wheeler Machinery, where they took that little gravel section and actually connected the dots between existing pavement in there. So yeah, this could be something we could adjust.
Okay.
There's no pavement in that section.
Any other public comment? Any comment from the board?
So, I guess what happens if adjustments need to be made? Do you have to change your report then to the state? Sorry.
No, not a problem. What we can do is in the morning, we can go back and get this measurement, and we can just adjust and take off. You know, it's going to go a quarter mile more of asphalt or something very small amount. Very small, very minor adjustment.
We'll move on to item 2 then. Councilman Allworth, public hearing, discussion only, approval of a second reading of ordinance 738, Bill 2021-01, amending Chapter 1 of Title 4 of the City Code of the City of Ely, replacing Chapter 1 in its entirety regarding public nuisances. This is a public hearing, so any comments from the board or public, either in the room or on Zoom, are welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, there's no need to modify those rules and regulations. You've had those ordinances in place for years. The failure to act on them is on you guys. Now you want to modify them again, make it that much harder on the people you serve. Let me remind you, for several months now, I've told you Curaleaf does not meet ADA and yet we're looking the other way. We're worried about other items. I want to remind you that I brought up about city code violations by previous and present members of the planning commission, as well as city councilmen. What are we going to do about that? That's the old community choir. Curb gutter, no ADA access to the senior center. It wasn't that you don't know. RVs. Permitting. Former attorney is re-roofing their home. How did he get by and I can't get a permit when I've come in here for over a year trying to get mine? On beautification, make the rules the same. Down here on Railroad Way and Avenue B, you have a fire hydrant 2 feet outside of the curb and gutter. And the new curb and gutter that was put in is another 8 feet. Concrete sidewalk should have been put in. You put in asphalt. Can't do that, Mayor. The rules and regulations are the same. And now you're looking at more rules, more regulations? What about the present enforcement? Here's someone put in by Carson's not a manhole, but a water meter pit with bollards, 11.5 feet from the property line. You want more rules and regulations? Try taking care of that first. Here's another one from September 16, 2020, another repeat. I get 2 citations for having RVs on my property. Get others up the street, no problem. And I've mentioned that numerous times. Here's another one on Main Street. I asked, do they have a business license? It's either yes or no. No citation there. Here's another one at the same place. We're talking since last July. Old Catholic Church. What's the zoning there? RVs? I don't think so. BMX area. Can have RVs there? Where's the hookups? What do they pay for landfill? Where's the beautification there, Mayor? I got more. I'll be back.
Thank you, George. Any other comment on this item number 2? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to item 3, Councilman Allworth, public hearing, discussion only, approval of second reading of ordinance 739, Bill 2021-02, amending Chapter 2 of Title 4 entitled Public Health and Safety, Garbage and Refuse, Abatement of Unsafe Buildings, Filth, Rubbish of the City Code of the City of Ely, specifically changing the timeframes outlined in Section 14. Any comments on the public hearing on this bill?
Same comments.
So noted. Okay, we'll move on to item 4, Councilman Allworth, public hearing, discussion only, approval of second reading of ordinance 740, Bill 2021-03, amending Chapter 3 of Title 4, entitled Public Health and Safety, Weeds, Debris, and Other Offensive Matter of the City Code of the City of Ely, specifically changing timeframes outlined in Section 3. Any comment from the board or public on this item?
Mr. Mayor, I want to remind you of the request for information that I gave you earlier on whether or not members of the Regional Planning Commission, the former Ely Planning Commission, were in compliance. They're not to this date, and yet you're creating a new ordinance, more regulations. Why don't you take care of that you had before? There's no need for any of this, folks. You're discriminating, and it needs to stop. Those that are in office need to set an example. You're not doing that. How many issues did I have to bring before you? Mr. Frankus has a problem. Mr. Carson has a problem. Mr. Spear has a problem. Mr. Allworth has a problem. You have a problem. You have a conflict of interest. I read in the legals that you're the project manager for the railroad. You built a city park right across the street from a
George,
working
please keep
railroad.
your comments to this agenda item.
That's what I'm talking about.
This
You're
agenda item is about
selectively
timeframes for enforcement.
Selectively enforcing the law, okay? You need to stop that. Forget all of this. You've got rules and regulations in place, enforce those. You're going after the little guy. You've got to stop that. The rules and regulations are for everybody, or they're for nobody.
Any other comments?
Lock them up.
Hearing and seeing none, will reconvene the city council meeting. Item 7, discussion possible action item pertaining to the public hearing. Item 1, council member, city engineer Alberg, discussion for possible action, approval of certification of roads for fuel tax within the city of Ely, Nevada, pursuant to NRS 365.550.
I just want to come up and report that I just went back down there, sitting down there. It's basically 0.11 miles difference in here. So what you'll be certifying to is 35.72 paved miles and 15.65 unpaved miles. I just wanted to clarify that for you guys.
I'll entertain a motion with the correction.
I'll move to approve with VJ's corrections.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Item 2, Councilman Allworth, discussion for possible action, approval of second reading of ordinance 738, Bill 2021-01, amending Chapter 1 of Title 4 of the City Code of the City of Ely, replacing Chapter 1 in its entirety regarding public nuisances.
Okay, I have a few things on this. On page, I guess I don't have a page. Under Q2, having no shattered windows, glass, hood, fender, doors, or truck. I think there should be trunk at the back end of the car. And then, I think it's just a typo there, but I think it's not a truck, it's supposed to be a trunk of an automobile. But 417, notice of property owner and occupant. I have a problem with this 10 days of mailing of the notice, when I think it should be receipt of the notice, because with the mail and whatnot that's going out, that's really going to make it a hardship. And we actually do state that on the very last one of these ordinances. Under B it says 10 calendar days notice if served by certified mail, return receipt request. And I think we should at least do that on these, instead of just say, okay, you got 10 days, it was in the mail on April 1st, it didn't get to them until April 20th. I think we need to have some way of knowing that they actually received that, and not just start the time clock ticking the minute we stick it in the mailbox. So I'd like to see that changed. And the same thing under 4-8, it says time limit of 5 days after mailing of notice. Holy smoly, and Boat Plains Press gets around faster than the U.S. Post Office does. And the next one's the same thing, 5 days. I think this all needs to be, I don't mind the 5 days or the 10 days, providing it's upon receipt of the notice, where they have the opportunity then to come back and either object to it or whatever. The next page, under 4-1-10, we actually say 10 days after proof of receipt. And the next one's the same thing, after proof of receipt. So I just think that whenever we're going to do this and enforce these codes, that we need to make sure that the property owner has received notice, whether it be delivered by hand, by the sheriff's office, or the U.S. Post Office. That's one thing. The next thing is I really have, I'm not sure how, I hate all these junk cars and stuff we have running around here, but what are we going to do with them? It says they've got to be towed off to some type of a storage. We have no dismantlers. From what Clerk Lee said several meetings ago when I asked her about it, said that you couldn't put them in the city dump without having a proper title. So where are these cars going to go if we tow them? We can't put them down at the sewage treatment plant because we got our tail feathers burned for that. So
It's my understanding they would be kept by the towing company that we hired. It's my understanding they would be kept by the towing company that we hired to get rid of them. they could then apply for
I
it.
can understand that, but boy, I think you're really adding a lot of stuff there. I talked to one of the operators out there that was crushing all the metal out there, and I think we need to